This is Virtualis, the chess noob, learning and having fun with chess. There are always risks with early queen moves, as a queen will get attacked and potentially trapped by less valuable pieces. One particular thing to look out for, both as the player with the queen out and as the player trying to threaten the opponent's queen, are absolute pins. In the earlier part of the game, this will more likely than not be in the situation where the queen and the king are on the same diagonal, with the attacking piece being a bishop. The side that loses a queen for a bishop will probably lose the game. Let's see an example of the tactic in the following game. Please enjoy! Okay, let's have a look at the review, chess.com's algorithm, and you can see after the opening I sort of developed a good lead, and I sort of maintained that lead throughout the game. And I did play somewhat more accurately than my opponent. So 85%, about 74%, and one brilliant move. We'll see that in context. I have to admit, I think, maybe the chess.com algorithm overrated that. I didn't think that move was actually that brilliant. I thought it was actually kind of obvious. But let's have a look now at the analysis. In this game, I had the black pieces an opponent in white. They played e4, I played e5, and they immediately played on their second move d4. So 2 pawns in the center, and that's the center game. And effectively, the opponent is gambiting that pawn. So the invitation here is to capture, and the queen obviously is going to capture back. I've faced the center game a few times, and I can't really remember any theory around this, except that it doesn't obviously seem good. So I thought, let's capture. Can't see any particular reason not to. Opponent, of course, will capture back with queen, so accepted, normal variation. And the obvious move now is to develop knight c6, or immediate attack on the queen. And also developing piece. And queen here forced a retreat, and the opponent retreated queen all the way back to d1, so back to its starting square, and effectively losing tempo, and arguably not for any particularly good reason either. And as you can see, so minus 0.67, so almost minus 0.7, favoring black already. So next move, develop the other knight, knight f6. Opponent can't push forward because obviously that's going to be captured. Here, the opponent played f3. Looks like developing the other knight, so the knight c3 would have been best. So now almost minus 1.2. Now in this position, I couldn't see any good reason why I couldn't straight up play d5, because if captures back, queen cannot capture, given that it's defended. So that's what I did. D5. Oh, very happy to see that was in fact the best move. Opponent looks like trying to pin the knight to the king, and so okay, I suppose. Here I thought I would sort of ask the question of what they were going to do with that bishop. It looks like that move was straight up the best move, minus 2.5, though this sort of still maintains approximately the same advantage as before. Bishop back to a4. I decided to play b5. And now some minus 2. So these series of moves were not very good for white, at least under this opening. Opponent now plays bishop b3, so now there is a sort of an extra attacker, so I need to bring on an extra defender, so logically that's going to be a bishop e6, and yeah, there we go. Opponent now plays queen e2. That allows me to play knight d4, potentially with sort of a fork, though, that's not entirely sure whether I do actually want to capture if that were the case. The opponent decides to push their queen to e3, and now there's a potential opportunity because if I move the knight and to capture pawn on c2, that's with check, and then there'll be a discovered attack on the queen. Now, admittedly, that tactic's pretty obvious. I assume that the opponent would see this, but there was absolutely no reason not to develop bishop to c5. My opponent played the best move. I thought that was a reasonably obvious move. Queen to c3. However, now that places the king and queen on the same diagonal, and there are always risks when that happens. So what I could see, if I could somehow get my bishop here, that would potentially pin that. Let's get rid of that arrow. That would potentially pin that queen to the king. Now, obviously, the bishop will need to be protected in some way, because if it's not protected in some way here, of course, the queen just straight up captures. And of course, the next move potentially is that the queen is going to straight up attack that bishop as well. So the obvious move potentially here is queen to d6. And yep, that was considered a good move. Stockfish thought that maybe to e7 with the same idea might have been better. Now, the reason that is better because queen at d6 is subject potentially to sort of this attack. That sort of forces the queen sort of out of the way, while if the queen is on e7, that is not available. However, what does the opponent do? Opponent doesn't see that threat. So they don't see the threat. They play bishop g5, developing the other bishop, and now bang, bishop b4. The queen is now lost. Queen is pinned to the king. It's an absolute pin. So they have to capture that bishop, otherwise, they're going to lose that bishop. They chose to capture this way instead. Which is okay, I suppose. That now comes with check. They capture. Here is the apparent brilliant move. So logic here is that one way or the other, I'm probably going to lose that knight. So might as well capture something for that loss. They capture, and now allows me to capture the bishop back. But I thought that was pretty obvious. So I'm not entirely sure why that was that brilliant. However, after all that transformation, pretty much minus 7.6, minus 7, I'm pretty much winning. If you lose a bishop for a minor piece for a queen, the opponent is probably winning. So it's a matter here really of trying to basically solve the issue. And I don't necessarily play the best moves here. So potentially here, what I need is if I could get the queen here without an attacker, without a defender, then that's going to be checkmate. So I need one more piece. So that's what I do. That was a good move by the opponents. Obviously need to zap, need to liquidate. Rook here, so if they don't do something, that's checkmate. And here I don't necessarily play the most accurate series of moves, but minus 77. So pretty much there's a forced mate somewhere. There's a forced mate somewhere, and that's just how powerful the queen is. So here they've got 3 pieces, but neither of these rooks are activated. So I'm in a very, very good position. And now, so rook on the 2nd rank. So my idea here is if the opponent doesn't act carefully, this is probably going to be sort of a mating net. So this rook really needs to keep the defense of that knight. If they ever move out of defense of that knight, there's probably going to be a forced mate. So my goal here, I don't have enough pieces, so I need to move these pawns up to threaten the king. Here, might as well just chomp a free pawn, move the king out of the way. Here we go, captures, and so starting to look really, really good. Really getting towards the end. That's fine. Yep. Are we going to trade rooks? Let's trade rooks. No, don't want to trade rooks. So push the pawn. Yep. So check. That's fine. That's fine. Yep. And here they move the rook. So my goal here is, now obviously I have to be careful I don't accidentally get ladder mated some way by those 2 rooks. However, I knew that keeping the king down towards the sort of the 7th rank would potentially stop the opponent from using this rook to make an attack, because the king can potentially attack the rook. However, I thought if I sort of drifted my king this way, they're going to forget about the importance, the imperative of of, supporting, of, defending that knight. And if they ever make a move where they're trying to set up some strategy without putting me in check, then that's going to be check, and then that will be checkmate. So let's see what happened. So move my king up. Yep, check. Move my king up. And there we go. They forgot the importance. They made a move without putting me into check. Maybe they were thinking there'd be some way here of forcing a trade of rook for queen, but now checkmate. So good game with the opponent. GG. The opponent in this game played the center game, which I faced only a few times. This is effectively a gambit, and as we could see in the Stockfish evaluation, it's entirely okay to accept a gambit, and following up with natural-looking developing moves is fine for black. Although I did incrementally gain some advantage in the opening, the loss of the queen by my opponent was terminal. I thought they played really well from that point onwards, but they simply couldn't recover from the material disadvantage. I hope you found this video interesting, and thanks for watching.